We are excited to have Dean Ayers join us, share his insights about what's been going on at Terry during this global pandemic. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. We're going to have the Q&A function open for all the attendees to post questions. We would love to field questions throughout the presentation. We'll get to as many as we can throughout and at the end of the presentation. We're going to try to wrap up by about 2:15. So we'll go ahead and jump into our welcome and our introductions. My name is Matt Beacham. I'm a member of our Terry Young Alumni Board, serving on my third year. I was an undergraduate major in accounting at, I majored in accounting at Terry, graduated in 2009. I got my master's also from Terry in accounting at 2011. I'm a partner in CPA with an accounting firm called Market Street Partners. We have offices in Chattanooga and Athens, Georgia, which is where I'm based. So Blake, I'll let you take it from there.
Matt, thank you very much. I too want to welcome everybody. I've had the honor and the privilege to serve on the Young Alumni Board, as well as now the Alumni Board. I graduated from the University of Georgia, and specifically the Terry College with a finance degree in 2003. I'm currently with Rockefeller's multifamily office, helped to open the office here in Atlanta, but originally started with Morgan Stanley right out of school, and then spent about 10 years with Merrill Lynch. More importantly, I want to introduce our keynote speaker, Dean Ben Ayers. Ben Ayers is the Dean of the Terry College of Business and holds the Earl Davis Chair in Taxation. He came to UGA in 1996 and served as the director of the Toll School of Accounting for 9 years, prior to his appointment as Dean in 2014. Dean Ayers has received many teaching awards at the school, college, and university level, including the Russell Award for Excellence in Undergraduate Teaching. In 2016, he received the Ray M. Summerfield Outstanding Tax Educator Award, which is the highest honor given by the American Taxation Association. Dean, thank you very much for being on this call. And at this time, I'm going to let you take it from here. And if you want to give any welcoming remarks, please do so.
Great. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Matt. Thrilled to be on the webinar today. And obviously during the pandemic, we're doing everything we can to create good interactions among our faculty, staff, students, and alumni. Really appreciate both on the Alumni Board and Young Alumni Board and for leading this series and moderating today. Terry College greatly benefits from the support of our alumni and friends. It's important at all times, but especially important during this particular time. And so let me thank you on behalf of the college for leading today's webinar, but also just for the great support that we receive from both boards and more broadly for alumni. We're able to achieve many great things because of your support. So thank you both.
Absolutely. Well, Dean Ayers, I'll jump into it. If you can share with us, take us back to March of this year. The students were out on spring break, and we got, this news that that COVID was really ramping up. So take us back to that time and the decision to pause classes for 2 weeks, finish the semester virtually. What sort of transpired during that time? What factors did you and the college and the university consider? And what were some of your main concerns?
Yeah, so that seems like years ago. Obviously, we're now in month 9 of the pandemic. And so I went back and looked at some of my notes from that time period. And leading up to spring break, we, university senior leadership, obviously tracking what was happening with the pandemic, the full impact or potential impact, we were learning bit by bit. And so as we left campus for spring break, each college and school was working to update their business continuity plan. And so what could possibly happen if there was a business interruption. And so we were working through that. And faculty were encouraged to create a test pilot for if we needed to move to online. And so that actually took place right as we were heading off to spring break. Over spring break, we had many students that were in study abroad programs. So literally we had students all across the US, but all across the world. So over spring break, as it became more evident, not only at UGA in the state, but nationally and internationally, the impact or the potential impact of the virus, then based on what we understood or knew at the time is what was the most prudent decisions to make sure that we were promoting the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff and community. So at that time, the decision was made, and I remember this vividly, on Thursday, March 12th, is when multiple discussions were going on. I remember that day because a year before was the day that I broke my femur on March 12th. So, you know, that was the day where the university system made the decision that we needed to pivot and not return back to campus in the interest of the health and safety of our entire community and more broadly our community. And so first priority obviously being health and safety, and then secondly, how do we execute, or the best way to execute our mission for educating our students in this pivot. And it was a massive pivot. So moving from having virtually all of our classes were delivered face-to-face. We did obviously have online classes and online programs and programs that are split delivery, but working through the process in 2 weeks for everything to be delivered online, and really more broadly from an operational standpoint, how each of our units executed and served our students in a remote fashion. And so we quickly pivoted with daily meetings. Our senior leadership team within the Terry College, we met at 4 o'clock every day to go through updates on each aspect of our operations. Our advising through our advisors was the first really to pivot. And so when they came back from spring break, we went immediately to remote advising. Very important for students to be correctly advised, understand the courses they need to take, and for to stay on track for graduation. So that was the first thing. Went through an assessment of equipment needs, technology limitations, best practices, and obviously also went through things of assessing internally the skill set of our faculty. So their readiness to actually to operate on online. And then we've got a number of faculty that are experts at online teaching. And what we saw during that period of time is some people raising their hands, I need assistance to do this pivot, and then others really stepping up to provide that assistance. So there were a lot of things going on, making sure students got back into the country safely was obviously an immediate priority for health and safety. Once everyone was back at the university level, obviously the coordination for students coming back to their dorms and getting stuff out. But we really worked to pivot every piece of our operation. Other things as we entered the pandemic, understanding the economic impact that it likely would have, we quickly pivoted our career services to assist our students who were still looking for jobs or graduating in May. So that was a strong effort of ours. Likewise, we worked really hard in our recruiting and missions efforts for students coming into Terry or potentially coming into Terry. Plans during that time, many internships were canceled. All of our study abroad programs were canceled over the summer. And so we had to quickly pivot to provide our students with experiential learning opportunities over the summer. And so big picture, key focal points a priority of health and safety with us being remote. That aspect was largely taken care of. And then importantly, how do we serve our students? How do we complete our mission in a very different setting? And then in doing so, making sure that we were encouraging people to be patient, our faculty and staff and students, and also compassionate, because it was a period of high uncertainty. And so I was, at the end of the spring semester, as we made all the decisions, had the pivot, very proud of how our faculty, staff, and students handled the transition. It was not perfect. We learned things from that. But it was a great time for people to pull together to do the very best possible to serve our students. And that's kind of what we saw in that March time through the spring semester.
So Dean Ayers, you did a great job transitioning from what was in person to a 100% remote. And then at some point in really the spring, moving into the summer, we were learning more about the virus, and there was an expectation or a decision that had to be made. If and when do we go back to an in-person learning environment? So tell us a little bit about, walk us through this summer and the preparations that were made for the fall semester to safely get the students back.
So immediately after the spring semester, early May, and so there was, we were in class probably about 6 weeks after returning. So quickly that time was preparation for the fall, and the summer the decision was made for everything to be online, so to continue that. We did add a number of courses, both experiential learning opportunities, and that was a big pivot for us in the types of courses that we offered and the number of courses we offered in the summer. We went through a process in May. This was driven through the university system, where there were a number of task force that were set up at the university level that really went through all aspects of the university operations for planning under different contingencies based upon the virus. And so how much it spread, the intensity, outcomes, all of those things. And that work took place in May and June, and we had individuals that were represented on the instruction piece of the planning, on the financial piece, and so that work primarily was in May and June, and where we had a more clear picture of how we would operate under different scenarios. During the summer, again, as things became more evident, more understanding of the virus, this was not going to go away quickly. And if you remember, the numbers in the state of Georgia actually spiked a little bit over the summer. We had a decline in April and May, and then peaked back up a bit. So we're really focused on priorities, health and safety, so that's clear that's the top priority for the university. And then secondly, how do we execute the mission knowing that this is not going to go away in a couple of weeks? And so key preparations related to that is to identify, based upon science and what we all understood based upon CDC guidelines, as those individuals who are at high risk and those individuals who are not at high risk related to COVID-19. And so for those that were at high risk, to provide accommodations, whether it's students and taking classes online. So that decision was made. And then also for faculty and staff, for those who are at high risk, then accommodations for online teaching or for telecommuting. And then once that piece was determined and really separated, is how do we operate on campus in a way that promotes effective learning and the health and safety of our entire community. And so there were a number of decisions that went through of how do we, for those individuals that are low risk, what does that mean? So based upon CDC guidelines, and so things like social distancing in all of our facilities and all of our classrooms, that obviously impacted our capacity in all of our classrooms. Then, what's the appropriate distance? What does it mean to be socially distanced? And so, again, guidelines of that's 6 feet. Understanding the benefit of wearing masks. And so the decision was to require the use of masks in all of our facilities and the importance of that. And I had a number of discussions with our medical leaders on campus here, which provided great assurance from people I trust of, what are measures that were very effective. And we, across campus, actually, there were some units, medical partnership being one of those, that actually were operating over the summer and using social distancing, wearing masks, and having no spread of COVID, which was very encouraging at the time. So, and then other protocols for health and safety. So hand sanitizer throughout, hard surface wipes. We purchased electrostatic cleaning machines. So we're spraying our facilities down every evening as if there was COVID in the room. We reduced the capacity in our classes to promote social distancing, also to lessen the spread. The university added extra time between all of our classes, and so to allow students the time to walk between classes as opposed to using the buses. This also would reduce the number of students waiting in the hall, so congregating outside a classroom. Other things, increasing the airflow through our HVAC systems, and we're very fortunate in Terry College to have a wonderful business learning community. So not only state-of-the-art learning facilities, but also state-of-the-art HVAC. And so we went through this entire process of what's everything that we can do to promote health and safety for those individuals who are going to be on campus, and then communicating those. And so university did a great job of communicating the plan and efforts for our students. We spent a lot of time within the Terry College of walking through that for our faculty and staff, because faculty and staff are going to be the more higher risk group within Terry. And then a number of other things. So surveillance testing. So the university got approval in secure facilities for surveillance testing. So right now the university has the capacity to do up to 1,000 tests a day as we approach Thanksgiving. So, so wonderful work, really great teamwork across campus through Vet Med to get us to the point of being able to do that. Created the dog check app for a notification process to allow the university to track positive cases. So that gave us, an idea on the number of individuals, and then also, is it faculty, staff, is it students, which students, are they in common classes, or in common programs? And so that really provided good information. So as we've gone through, we have better information as to where the spread is likely occurring and where it's not likely occurring. So those were key steps over the summer. And then for instruction, so that health and safety piece of this was, what are best practices? What are things that we can do to provide in a very different setting where social distancing and people wearing masks, teaching in masks? What can we do to make sure that we're doing the best job we can in educating our students? So a lot of good discussions over best practices, both in instruction and in testing. And then at this time, based on what we learned in the spring, we had much more confidence in technology. And so virtually the entire US converted to Zoom or migrated to Zoom in March and April, and we were very concerned about that. Access to technology, will it work? And so that really, based on what we learned in the spring, really helped us to plan differently for the fall. And then other aspects as well, student life. So, how do we engage students outside the classroom with our alumni, with employers? We're doing all of that virtually. But it's very important. So even when we're in a pandemic, having these types of interactions is so critically important for our students. And so our Student services, both master's level and undergraduate, have done a great job of that. So those were some of the planning we went through. And I will mention the financial aspect of this as well. And so while we were in the month of May and June, really planning for very different scenarios in terms of operations and strong concerns of enrollment demand and health and safety, also facing a sizable reduction in budget. And so we also went through that planning, and there the goal is, how do we manage through this effectively and really provide a high level of service for our students. And so that was not a small challenge as well during those summer months. So pretty intense time. We were back on campus. I did stay at home for a period of time, probably 5 or 6 weeks from March, mid-March, late March to early May, but have been back on campus since mid-May and really focused on operationally in health and safety.
That's, I just can't imagine planning for an organization of this size. We've got a question that came in from our participants that kind of falls in line with my follow-up on that as well. So I'm going to try to intertwine. And you touched on some of the lessons that you learned coming out of the spring, going into the fall. So if there are any other kind of specific, issues that you ran into in the spring when you came back and you converted the learning platform from an in-person platform to an online platform, maybe touch on any other specific lessons that you learned. And also if there are any differences in preparation going into the fall semester to where we are now, has anything changed with any of the safety protocols? And then lastly, if there's been any interaction between yourself or the college and state and national leaders in regards to guidance on holding in-person classes versus online classes, maybe talk to us a little bit about what the interaction has been like between UGA and Terry and the state and federal level.
Yeah, so I'll handle that first, and then I'll go back to the other. The university obviously is part of the university system, and so decisions related to level of operation of those are appropriately handled at the university system level. And so in terms of how we operate and best practices, largely that is done through medical professionals, and we've got a wonderful group of individuals on campus who are very knowledgeable. And so a lot of that has really informed how we would best operate in a very safe way. A lot of things to learn. This is, so as I mentioned in March, as we're taking, and you've got to remember the scale of the University of Georgia. So enrollment in approaching 40,000 students. And so, and then obviously each student taking multiple courses, the scale of that to, in a short period of time, move to online. There were strong concerns because obviously we're not the only school, university nationwide doing that. And so we had really legitimate concerns about the technology, bandwidth, bugs, everything that you can think of. And so one of the things, so in the spring, we strongly encouraged our faculty to teach asynchronously. So they would record information and then post that, as opposed to relying on technology and students' access to technology for this synchronous live interaction that we're doing right now. And so we, given the concerns and their, again, nationwide and beyond, that was one of the things that we learned during that time, we did have a couple of programs where we were encouraging the online live synchronous Zoom. Those were offered in off times, weekends, evenings, and the success and the feedback from those programs really helped us to determine we now have confidence with this. There was obviously we had time for a good test run with that. So that was one of the things we learned is the bandwidth, the technology is relatively reliable. There have been challenges in the fall semester, especially early on. So those are one of the things that we've learned. We also, from a positive side, and I know that we're all are pretty much zoomed out at this point, but one of the things that we've learned, advising has been very effective remotely, and very convenient. It's very effective in sharing screens. And so that aspect has worked actually really well. Our advisors are advising in person, but also remotely. And that option, I think, is a good option for us to consider long term. The benefits of engaging our alumni nationally and internationally through Zoom has been a real plus for us. And so this has really opened up access for our students. And so that's another item that we've, lessons from the pandemic. Now, the other thing that we've learned is, I would say, the great value of what we do on campus in a pre-pandemic setting. And so the importance of face-to-face interaction, all parts of the university that we do on campus and how important that is. And so I think if you polled virtually everybody, we are awaiting the time where we're back more fully with face-to-face and the great things, the importance of that. We want to leverage technology appropriately, and that's really important. But the face-to-face interaction is vital for our programs. Regarding health and safety protocols, from the summer, from the plan that was created over the summer, again, based on science and what we know about the spread, has stayed pretty similar. So the university has increased their surveillance testing. So now we've been able to ramp that up to now 1,000 per week, or 1,000 per day, sorry, 1,000 per day. And that's changed a little bit. So how they've conducted that has changed a little bit. One of the feedback that we've received is that, or at least based upon the data, there's very little evidence that COVID is being spread in the classroom. And so, in the classroom, faculty are wearing masks, all the students are wearing masks, 6 feet apart. In our facilities, if you were to walk through, likewise, students are complying with that. And so, from where we are right now, we feel more informed because we've now been operating since August. And so there were concerns of, are we going to see spikes that are attributable to what's happening in the classroom that are in a particular program? And there's just, no evidence of that. And obviously, we've had COVID cases and we had the spike in the first 2 weeks. Other universities had a very similar experience. Our numbers have been quite low for the past several weeks since then. So differences in terms of preparation, safety have been very similar. Plans for the spring, likewise, will be same protocol in terms of health and safety. But definitely in terms of technology and instruction, strongly encourage live instruction, in class attendance as much as possible, but staying obviously mindful of the health and safety protocols.
Ayers, at the university or the college level, is there one thing during this pandemic that's really surprised you?
I think I've been pleasantly surprised a number of times. Obviously, the pandemic this has been a challenge for all of us. All of our lives have been disrupted. We all are living differently. We all have concerns, face concerns. So, the past, we're now in month 9. So there's been a lot of angst, and so how we're operating has to be different. It's less comfortable to teach in a mask. It's less pleasant to hear someone teach in a mask. It's less enjoyable to be socially distanced and all those types of things. But one of the things I think I've been encouraged more broadly is by the resilience of our students and faculty and staff. And I really saw that last spring as we pivoted to fully online. There's a lot of work went into that. For our students, there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of what the rest of that spring semester would look like. Every faculty member had to adjust the material they taught. So they had to repivot, prioritize, and then also use good judgment and compassion. And that combination of being resilient through tough times and in a difficult time, you need to show resilience, and in a time like this, also compassion. So each story is different. Each student's story is slightly different, faculty and staff. And so I have been really pleased with the level of compassion and understanding, the need for care to accommodate those that are at risk, and also just the understanding that everybody is carrying a heavier burden than normal. And so we need to be compassionate, and what we're doing shows strong resilience. And so that I've been pleasantly surprised. I don't know if surprised is right, but I've been proud of that. And our faculty and staff have really pulled together, and we needed, especially in the spring. And I know that we're not unique. I know virtually every business who's operated during this time, you've got to have people to step up. And so we really have had people that have pulled together, maintain a positive attitude. People raise their hands if they need help, and then having others say, I want to help in that way, even though maybe it's not my job. And I'll give you a good example of this. One of the challenges for us in going to online is we have the need to close caption a lot of the lectures. So if you think about a lecture there, and that students have needs that require closed captioning, and we've had a number of staff that have said, I will step up and I'll help with that. And what that means is listening to a lecture and then going through and literally captioning that. And just so I've been amazed at that. It's been a challenge, and things haven't been perfect. I mean, but I think across the board, in terms of our students, faculty and staff, people have kept a good attitude. And so that resilient, long term, I think is going to really serve our graduates. It's going to serve the communities that they're working in, they're leading. And I've been very pleased in seeing that combination of toughness as well as compassion during this time, because we needed both of those things.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think we all want this pandemic to be over as quickly as possible. And it sounds like obviously you've got plans to operate. Sounds like mostly status quo in the spring. But are there any ongoing concerns with the pandemic and how it might affect the college? You mentioned the financial aspect earlier, but how it might affect the college and the students?
So ongoing concerns, and again, this has been a journey over the past 9 months. Health and safety is still top priority, and so understanding where we are, what we're doing, what the concerns are, making sure that we're staying abreast of the virus, and obviously we're optimistic with everyone else with the vaccines that have been announced and hopefully will be approved and will have widespread use. So that is still top of mind. But I will tell you that the other part of this that we are also concerned with, especially for our students, is mental health. And so it is difficult to, especially if you put yourself in the shoes of a freshman and sophomore, mainly, possibly also juniors and seniors and graduate students, but coming to a new campus and, not coming to class often or being in class, staying in the dorms and apartments. And so, we know the benefits of getting out and interaction. And we know that this is, it's tough for everybody to be. The period of time where I was solely at home and not going out to restaurants, virtually not doing anything outside of my home was really challenging. So this is top of mind for us to not only care for the health and safety for our students, not only to provide them a wonderful education and great opportunity set, but be very cognizant of the mental health challenges of the pandemic, the change in how we have to operate. And so for the spring, we are really encouraging students to leave the dorms and come to class. And we're gonna be compassionate in that. We encourage, faculty to be understanding. And again, these are students who are low risk, not high risk students, but it's in their, they will have a better experience, have a better mindset. And so we know in general that college students, while it's great, fun to be in college students are stressed. It's stressful to contemplate your future. It's stressful to be choosing a major and educational choice, and the classes are not easy. They're challenging as well. So we're very cognizant of the mental health challenges that are specific to this time. And so that, I'd say, an ongoing concern. The other thing that, as I've messaged, especially internally, is, this is not going to last forever. And so sharing with our faculty and staff, especially early in April and May, when we were trying to get a better understanding of the financial impact of the recession and impact on operations, all of those things. One of my things I always think back to in life is, it's really important to recognize when times are good and to celebrate those. So be cognizant when life is good and enjoy that. And then also recognize when times are not good. So when they're bad, and to manage through that effectively, but be aware that this is not going to last forever. So we are going to come through this. And as a college, we're going to manage through the financial aspects of this, the operational of this. And what our goal has been is, let's do things in a way so we can come out of this stronger, so that we're not going to make any decisions in the short term that will negatively impact what we can do for our students, and really so put this in the appropriate perspective that this is it's a temporary thing. And so I found that to be helpful, in those days where you've got either, one challenge or the other, that, this too shall pass. Better days are ahead, for us. And so let's treat it that way and recognize that part of life is you've got to work through challenges. And so I've been pleased with that aspect of it. And, it is an ongoing concern because this is obviously lasting longer than any of us would like. I will tell you on a positive side, what a great time to study leadership. What a great time to study disruption. And this has provided very rich conversations in our classes. And because we're living it right now, and you can, and things are changing rapidly, and you can study and evaluate and really learn from decisions been made, how different organizations have handled things, and it's incredibly rich. So I will tell you that I'm ready for a time that's less rich, but this is in terms of education and learning, this is a great time to learn. So that's a positive spin on it.
Ben, we're gonna pivot a bit. In the midst of the pandemic, we also experienced a nationwide reckoning with racial equality. Talk to us a bit about how this impacted the Terry College and the Terry students.
Yeah, this was, in the middle of a pandemic, and in May and June, when obviously a very troubling time because of the pandemic. We had the tragic loss of lives, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others. Devastating. I mean, human life is the most precious thing that we have, that we're given on earth. And so I would say that, our collective hearts ached for the pain and suffering that the deaths caused for our Black community, but for all of us. And remember, the month of May and June for everything else that we were going through and experiencing, this time. And just, for us, it was a time for us to listen, to have members of our community to share their experiences, their concerns, their feelings. And for us as a college, it gave us the opportunity to really reflect and to evaluate the significance of our commitments and what we're doing on campus. And so while it was a very tragic, devastating, difficult time, it did allow us to provide more clarity on what we have done, what we are doing at the college level. And so for us, in thinking about diversity and inclusion, we really went through and identified four different pillars of these are commitments that we think are very important. We live in a very diverse state, a diverse country, and obviously a diverse world, and our graduates are going to be going into very diverse communities and need to be in a position to both serve and to lead. And so the four pillars that we identified really center around promoting respect on campus, for differences, supporting diversity through our efforts to become more diverse, through education. So leading international, providing strong education efforts on campus for our students to prepare them to be successful in the very diverse communities, and then also for serving our community effectively. And so each of those areas, we have had for many years strong efforts related to promoting respect and being an environment where all students are welcome, especially and diverse students are welcome, and that this is a place where you can be very successful and be on a great path to success in your careers, to benefit your communities. And so we've, for us, it has been a very challenging time for our nation, and but it did provide us an opportunity for clarity and to have more people engaged. And so over the summer and the fall, we've had a number of good conversations that have been on campus and externally, and obviously these primarily have been virtual, but we've had a good opportunity to learn from different experiences and also to identify things that we can do to make a difference. And so throughout all the bad, there are, good things that will come out of this and making important changes to benefit our community in Terry more broadly.
I think that's really important right now. Obviously, can you shed some more light on any of the specific programs and initiatives that Terry has in place and is involved in to support and nurture that diverse and inclusive environment?
Yeah, I'll go through a handful of these. Anybody who is interested, encourage you to go to our website and you'll see the listing, the pillars, and all the different items. And I think it's important not only to have the commitments, but the actions behind that. Some of those, early on in my tenure as dean, and I'm in my 7th year of serving as dean of Terry, it was important for us to get more people engaged in our efforts for diversity and inclusion. And so one of the things that we've done that has been very beneficial for us is we established a faculty and staff diversity advisory board. And the goal there is, if this is important for the college, and it is very important for us, we wanted to have more people engaged in what we're doing with our students and alumni and others. And so that has been key to our efforts to promoting a welcoming and inclusive environment. It's been a great source of ideas and feedback, as well as participation. A year or so after that, we also created our Terry Student Diversity Advisory Council, Advocacy Council, and that is a group of students where they're helping us in our recruiting efforts. This year, they've hosted a number of panel discussions. If you're on social media, they are highlighting different members of our community in a very effective way. And that's a great source of feedback for us. In the fall, early in the fall, we had, and this was actually one of the few events we've had in person, is we had this group in our diversity and inclusion office hosted our table talks about race. And it was a great panel discussion of current students there. And we had a brief reception afterwards to provide more opportunity for one-on-one discussions with our students and faculty and staff. And that's been very helpful for us. As you know, at our alumni boards, we've also established committees that are focused on diversity and inclusion. We really are working hard to engage our diverse alumni in a more prominent way. A year ago, so February of 20, we started a program we call the Terry Trailblazers program that recognizes outstanding diverse Terry alumni and engages them very purposefully with our students. And it's a full day of a leadership lecture, panel discussions, and then we have mentoring. And last year was the first year that we hosted this, and I was blown away by that day, the impact, the experience of our students. And I remember that day being just students recognizing who was there, who were the Terry Trailblazers we invited back to campus, and the students having the opportunity to spend 30 minutes to being mentored was really awesome. So the second round is going to be on February the 9th, and we have a stellar group of Terry alumni. And so those are some of the things that we have done, we are doing. We have more things that are planned for next year, and really focusing a lot on our pre-business students. And one of the things that we've learned from our discussions is just some of the the challenges of transitioning to the university and opportunities for us to play a bigger role in creating more community among our diverse students. So we're excited about what fall 21 holds for us.
Dean Ayers, we've got a great question from the audience in regards to study away or study abroad. As you and the leaders at UGA look ahead, what key measures or benchmarks must be met for the study away programs within the USA and worldwide to continue at full capacity?
That is a great question. We have, first let me brag on the university, but also the Terry's International Business Program. Yesterday, and I'm not going to remember the source of the ranking, but the university was recognized yesterday as number 6 in the country in terms of study abroad, study away programs, and number 5 in the country in terms of the shorter programs. So it is a key part of educational experience for our students. Within Terry, we actually lead the university in terms of study abroad participation. About 30 to 40% of our students will study abroad during their time at Terry. And so it's very important for us, for our students to have that experience. It's a life-changing experience to go and spend time in another culture, to understand the differences in business. And I hear time and time again how important that is. I'm very proud of the efforts within Terry to greatly expand those programs. So before I answer the question on what has happened, we've finalized our strategic plan for the upcoming 5 years. And a key part of this is continuing to expand our study abroad. And so we will add more study abroad locations, more internship opportunities abroad. And so we are looking forward to the day where we can travel internationally, and this can return to be a very important part of our student experience. And so we've had to pause that right now. We also are raising money for study abroad scholarships. Currently, the Terry College, we have about 5,000 juniors and seniors, and we have around 5 study abroad scholarships. So we are nowhere close to where we need to be to support that. And that's important because about 20% of our students are Pell Grant eligible. So we want to greatly boost the scholarships. So, all right, so those are all my items of what we're doing and kind of plugging our efforts there. What we're going to need, a couple of things going to have to happen. We're going to first need to have travel restrictions. And so, question now is if we wanted to if we thought it was prudent to do study abroad, would our students actually be welcome in international location? So that piece has to happen. Travel restrictions have to be removed. So that's number 1. Realistically, we've got to have a medical solution in terms of vaccines. And so for me personally, what's likely to happen first is vaccine is widely adopted. And so that the pandemic, the virus is much more under control. And at that point is where you will see study abroad coming back. So we're not having study abroad, obviously, in the spring semester. I think officially we haven't canceled anything for the summer, but I would be highly skeptical of that at this point. So optimistic, we definitely want to do this, but most likely you're going to see campus return to full operations first and then study abroad come back. That's my personal thought. I would say it's not an informed thought. It's not based on conversations I've had centrally, but realistically, we're going to have to move back to full operations and then probably study abroad. The other option there is study abroad in a very social distance way, and that may be viable, but I think that any decisions to do that would go through careful consideration. So we're optimistic. This is an important part of the student experience, and so it will come back, but it's going to be a little bit before it does.
Dean Ayers, so much time and energy and effort has been focused on this pandemic. Once this pandemic goes away, what's next for Terry? What's the vision of the future for you?
So Blake, this has been, my life the last 8 or 9 months has been two things. One, we've talked a lot about the pandemic and the other, and diversity inclusion and what we're doing there. And those have really been very, very important for us. But we also, during this time, believe it or not, finalized our strategic plan for the next 5 years. And so while we are really focused on the day-to-day, so executing in a very safe and effective way, and that obviously is our top priority, we have great plans for the future. And so in our strategic plan, there are a number of themes, college-wide themes, that we want to more infuse in the student experience. And so I'll share a couple of these. Sustainability would be one of those, and so really focusing on business sustainability. And we are recently received a commitment for a professorship in sustainability, and we hope to eventually endow a center within Terry related to that. So that will be a key part for us. We're also working to endow our Institute for Leadership Advancement and greatly expand the access for students to leadership classes. We need effective leadership. We need our graduates to be prepared to lead effectively. And you can do that as a new staff person. You can do that middle level management, and you can do that as senior management. But it's very important for us, for our students, to be able to know what leadership is and the traits of good leadership, and really to benefit the organizations and the communities that they serve through effective leadership. So that's another key part of our strategic plan. Analytics. Over the past 5 years, we have added a wonderful Master's in Science and Business Analytics. That program is doing great with great outcomes for our students. It's a high demand area. I think we're really serving the state of Georgia and beyond by producing great graduates that are prepared to hit the ground running in business analytics. We also, MBA program is concentration of that. Our Master's of Accounting program does, our MIS program. One of the things we want to do really is expand that effort college-wide. And so for every Terry student undergraduate, we have the ability to have an emphasis in analytics. And so we're making progress on that, and hopefully we'll roll that out possibly next year. Another area of focus is on innovation and technology. And so the world that our graduates are entering is very different than the world that I entered when I finished my undergrad program. Things move much quicker, changes much quicker. Technology is enabling industries, it's disrupting. And so we are working for a greater focus on technology and how that is driving new business models, and likewise to make sure that our students are prepared to manage effectively through periods of high change. And so we're obviously in a period like that right now. And so this is disruption because of the pandemic, but is another part that's will be an important part of our focus. And then lastly, in terms of themes of entrepreneurship and innovation more broadly. In the past 5 years, we established a wonderful campus-wide entrepreneurship program that the Terry College leads, and we have great plans for that program in the future to really expand that. And just briefly, those are some of the themes, but we will be doing a number of other things. Experiential learning, that really has been very prominent. And you remember the experiential learning initiative that was adopted by the university a couple of years ago. So we will greatly expand our study abroad. We're doing more consulting projects with our students and outside companies and non-for-profits. That will grow. We're doing more undergraduate research opportunities for our students, and obviously want all of our students to do at least one internship. And then a couple other things, obviously a research mission. So that is really important. We are fortunate to have world-class faculty that are working to engage on helping solve problems that are posed for today's business world. And so continuing to be a leader in knowledge creation and collaboration across the university and internationally in terms of our research, and then community impact as well. So we as a college do a number of things to really impact our communities through our executive education programs that we offer out of Atlanta. We're having great success there. That is a key part of how we contribute to the business community in Atlanta and beyond. Through our entrepreneurship program here on campus, we have a number of initiatives that the local community can engage with in terms of support for startups. And then obviously through service learning projects and consulting projects that we're doing to benefit non-for-profits. So there is a lot planned for the next 5 years. And I'm, this semester, despite the pandemic, very enthused about the progress that we're already making. And, as a college, we're going to take a huge step forward this year in terms of ways to really benefit our students, even in a pandemic. And so the future is very, very bright, very exciting things that we're doing to provide our students great experience, great education, and wonderful opportunities upon graduation.
It's very exciting about the future. So we're close to wrapping up, and I wanted to just open it up to the audience if there are any other burning questions that you'd like the dean to answer. So we'll take just a quick minute, and if nothing comes through, Blake will have you wrap it up.
We're going to let you continue to type just for a minute and make sure there are no more. All right, Dean Ayers, I think that means you've done a fantastic job answering the questions that are out there. I want to thank you. Thank you for your time today. And more importantly, thank you for all that you've done over the past 8 or 9 months, all you continue to do. As we said, the future is bright, and I couldn't be more excited for our college and the students, soon-to-be alumni that you're influencing. To all of you, our next virtual opportunity to connect will be Wednesday, December 9th. It's when we will host Benjamin and Kirsten Watson virtually for Why Not with the Watson. The registration link will be in the follow-up email from this program, and we hope that all of you can join us again. Also, please be active on Terry Connect and connect with Terry on any and every social media. Again, thank you all for your time today. I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.